Okay, Thursday. That means we talk travel on Mansfield today. Thank you for joining us. Nice to have you with us once again. We're also joined in the studio by Sue Garret, who is the GM of Supply and Marketing at the Flight Centre Travel Group. They're our partners in the travel show. Sue, nice to have you in the studio. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Great to be here.
There's a load of confusion at the moment around the entire travel industry. I mean, it's not just morons like me. I think there are people in the travel industry who are just as confused as passengers.
Absolutely, Jeremy. And, this is where I think, we've got to give credit to anyone working in the travel industry trying to make head or tail of whether you can fly, whether you can't fly, what the vaccination requirements are, what the quarantine requirements are. And it's just a massive confusion out there. So, and it continues to be confusing. So much so, coming in on Friday morning into the office, we were told that Seychelles was going to be opening up their borders regardless of if you'd been vaccinated or not. And, suddenly by 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon, that had been retracted, and we were back restricted for travel to Seychelles. So it's just continuously changing, and to try and keep on top of it is very, very difficult.
What are you trying to do to assist people who are wanting to travel internationally because of all this confusion, on, off?
Yeah, absolutely, Jeremy. And, this is where I think, reflecting back on last week's conversation with Andrew, talking to needing the help of an expert. And we've seen that more and more. The questions that our guys out in the front are answering are no longer just what prices are. They almost have to be the experts in giving medical advice to passengers or quarantine advice. And it's a costly exercise to travel right now internationally. Where borders are open to, obviously South Africans are flocking to, because there is that pent-up demand for international travel. But if, there's a lot of VFR traffic that we talk to, which is visiting friends and family, where parents haven't seen their kids or grandkids for long periods of time and are wanting to get over either to the UK or various destinations, and the quarantine restrictions make it a very, very expensive exercise.
Yeah, I can understand that. But there are some places, we'll come back to this point a little bit later, there are some places which are offering some great specials as well at this time. You're talking about visiting friends and relatives. Probably one of the big destinations would be Australia. And that's why we've asked Mickey to join us.
Yes, absolutely. Australia is one of those destinations that we get a lot of questions around as to when the destination is going to open and what the requirements would be to enter. And in fact, Jeremy, as we went through the initial lockdown phases where things were slowly closing down around us, the amount of people that unfortunately, had received the option to immigrate to Australia, and they were sort of stuck in a bit of a quandary as well as to could they go, when would they need to go to validate their visas. So, one of the airlines, and I think the confusion out there really stems from borders opening and then closing, and airlines opening and then or airlines flying and then grounding, and a lot of refunds and what do I do with the credits. But one of the airlines that right early on in the piece made a very, very clear and concise decision that they were not going to fly, and that was Qantas. And joining us today is Mickey, who's the head of South Africa or Regional Africa Qantas. And it would be great to ask Mickey a few questions.
It must have been, Mickey, thank you very much for joining us. It must have been a really tough decision that the spirit of Australia had to take Qantas by saying, look guys, we're not flying. Must have been a tough decision.
Yes, Jeremy, thanks. It was a very tough decision. We know that the VFR, the visiting friends and relative market between South Africa and Australia, is very strong. Many of us have family members living in Australia and New Zealand. So there's that separation of families, which is already a very emotional piece. And we made a decision very early on not to fly. And this decision is largely based on the fact that the Australian borders do remain closed. At this stage, it's not clear when they will open for international travel. And there's restrictions flying into Australia. So each city has a cap. Some cities allow about 512 passengers per week to come in. Other cities in different states in Australia have different numbers. And it becomes very challenging. And what we're seeing really is the decision not to fly, although it's a very hard decision, and it's also commercially based, but it's also really much following government guidance in terms of all of the restrictions in place. What we do obviously allow is a lot of flexibility on existing passengers who are holding tickets with Qantas, and these can be held in credit for travel right up to December 2023. The big question obviously is, when are the borders going to open? And I think that's a very difficult question to answer at this time. A lot will be dependent on government's decision and the vaccination rollout within Australia, which is scheduled to be completed by the end of this year. So at the moment, we're reviewing our international schedule and postponing it as we're guided by the Australian government's decision on the way forward. What we have done, however, our CEO announced in the last couple of days that we are planning a vaccination rewards program. This program will launch in about, and what it basically does is it tends to give customers who are fully vaccinated rewards that could include Qantas frequent flight points, flight vouchers, status credits. It's probably also going to include like mega prizes for free travel for a family on our network for up to a year. And our CEO also really encourages other business to get on board that. And I think with these kind of initiatives, we hope that international borders will open sooner rather than later.
Mickey Messner is the Regional Manager Africa at Qantas. Mickey, thank you very much for joining us today on Mansfield Today.
Thank you.
Sue, let's go back to where South Africans can travel without quarantine restrictions, for example, because I think Andrew was mentioning last week on the travel show that there's some amazing specials to the Maldives.
Yes, yep.
Which is not a bad place to go.
No, Jeremy, it's definitely not. And, you know, it's interesting, the Maldives was being used as a quarantine area as well. So for passengers looking to get into the UK, instead of quarantining for 14 days there, they, you know, why not have a 2-week holiday on the beach? But that has since been stopped due to Maldives going onto the red list for the UK. But there certainly are some great specials, and the Maldives and Zanzibar are open to South Africans, and obviously they're looking to put out some great deals to attract any passengers that are looking to travel internationally. And, you know, places like Zanzibar at the moment, a lot of European borders are still closed, so you can take advantage just as you can locally of the local deals. The Zanzibar deals are absolutely phenomenal. So destination close to home and obviously easy to get to.
Yeah. What's the future of travel? Come on, crystal balls too. Come on, Garret.
Oh, Jeremy, I wish I knew. But look, travel, I think, will take a fair while to recover. It's not, you know, with borders opening, it's not going to be everyone's back comfortable flying, comfortable, you know, sitting so close on planes, and it's the unknown. So, you know, certainly I think the travel will change. Things like flexibility, which Mickey mentioned, Qantas do offer a fair amount of flexibility, is going to become more and more important. I think certainly, you know, over the last 18 months, there's been, you know, a lot of airlines flying, or hotels or destinations opening and then shutting down again, and people, you know, are wanting that flexibility. I think the desire for open spaces is going to be something that we see very, very prevalent in the future of travel. You know, I just think the trepidation around travel will be around for a while, but we certainly do look forward to the days that it gets back to some sort of normality.
And as we said on the last show as well, there's some wonderful places in this magnificent country of ours, which we can get to. And those are some of the options we need to start looking at. Sue Garret, the GM of Supply and Marketing at Flight Centre Travel Group, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. I really appreciate your time and spending time with you.
And next week, what are we going to be looking at?
Next week, we've got a very topical conversation next week, and Andrew will be joining you in studio again and bringing in Kim Taylor from our Customer Experience division. And Kim is an expert on refunds and cancellations, so she'll be here explaining the process of refunds and cancellations in travel.
Make sure to join us then. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at property on Mansfield Today. We hope to catch up with you then. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Sometimes there's so much you can